make a unique contribution on the cultural map of America.
Ruby Dee stars in a celebration of the life and works of writer and folktale teller Zora Neale Hurston.
From here, there, everywhere. I pick up lies, stories, that is.
Flip Wilson.
Woman, ask for what you want.
And Lou Gossett Jr.
My God! My God! Why hast thou forsaken me?
I like that part best because it was high drama.
Join in tribute to the woman who stood proud and said, "Zora is my name." The presentation of American Playhouse is made possible by the financial support of viewers like you. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting, the National Endowment for the Arts, and by the Chubb Group of Insurance Companies, for over 100 years providing business and personal insurance worldwide through independent agents and brokers.
I have memories within me that came out of the material that went to make me. So you will have to know something about the time and place where I came from in order that you may interpret the incidents and directions of my life. I left behind a lot of words and stories that carry the history and humor of my people. I wrote them down so that everyone would know that they had a history and a culture to be proud of. I picked up the reflections of life around me with my own instruments and absorbed what I gathered according to my inside juices. Wherever I went, stories found me. But the ones that stuck with me the most were the ones that came from right where I began. So here it is, some of my story, the highlights and the smudgy in-betweens, and the folk tales told by those who lived on the other side of the creek. Gonna write him down, Lord, Lord, gonna write him down. Mule on the mountain, name of Jerry. Captain got a mule on the mountain, name of Jerry. Gonna write him down. From here, there, everywhere. I pick up lies, stories, that is.
You so ugly. You want an ugly child. You so ugly. You want an ugly child. Hey, you so ugly. Hurt your face to smile.
What's the ugliest man you ever seen?
I seen the man so ugly till they had to spread a sheet over his head at night so sleep could slip up on him.
Oh, that was no ugly man what you always talked about. Fact is, he's pretty. I know the man was so ugly you could have thrown him in the Mississippi River and skimmed ugly for 6 months.
That's ugly.
I was glad when somebody told me you may go and collect Negro folklore. The first place I aimed to collect material was Eatonville, Florida. As early as I can remember, it had been the habit of the men folks particularly to gather on the store porch evenings and swap stories.
Y'all want to hear another story? Mm-hmm. God sure know I feel like telling one. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, did you know that that's one word the devil made up?
Nope, I never heard about it. It's a mighty useful word.
Mm-hmm. Sure is. Everybody says it. Mm-hmm. And I tell you why. Oh, one day the old devil looked around hell and seen he's short of help, so he decided he'd run up to heaven and kidnap a few angels to keep things running until he got reinforcements from Miami. Well, he comes up on a great crowd of angels on the outskirts of heaven, stuffed a couple of thousand of them in his mouth, a few hundred under each arm, and he darted on toward hell. When he got low to the earth looking for a place to land, this man looked up and synced him and said, devil, so you got a load of angels. Going back for another load? devil opened his mouth and said, yeah. And all the little angels flew out of his mouth, went back to heaven. And when we went after them, he lost the rest of them. So he went on back up to heaven, got him another load. He flying low again. Same man seen to him and said, ah, devil. See, you got another load of angels. The devil nodded his head, kept his mouth shut this time and said, mm-hmm. And that's why we say it to this day. Stepped on a pin, the pin bent. That's the way the story went.
Now, I was born in a pure Negro town. Charter, mayor, council, town marshal, and all. It was not the first Negro community in America, but it was the first to be incorporated, the first attempt at organized self-governing on the part of Negroes in America. Eatonville, Florida. A city of 5 lakes, 3 croquet courts, 300 brown skins, 300 good swimmers, plenty of guavas, 2 schools, and no jailhouse. My father, John Hurston, had been born near Notasulga, Alabama, over the creek, which was just like saying on the wrong side of the railroad track. Over the creek folks lived from one white folks' plantation to another. Regular hand-to-mouth people. They didn't own pots to pee in nor beds to push them under. Didn't have no more to them than the stuffings out of a zero. John Hurston learned to read and write somehow between cotton picking and cotton chopping, which might have satisfied him in a way.
Somehow, I took to going to the Macedonia Baptist Church, which was on the right side of the creek. Well, one day, I met the dark, brown Lucian Potts of the land-owning Richard Potts, which may have given me the church-going habit.
He got right worrisome, slipping her notes between the leaves of hymn books and things like that.
Well, after a few months, it got so bad that she just up and married me to get rid of me.
And so I did. In spite of the most violent opposition from my family.
She, who was considered the prettiest and the smartest, was throwing herself away and disgracing the Pottses by marrying an over-the-creek Negro, and a bastard at that.
I said my words and took my stand for life.
I got a dark-skinned girl. She really rules my world.
So these two people began their new life together. They vowed things would get better, and it came to pass as they said. John Hurston was to be elected mayor of Eatonville for 3 terms and to write the local laws. Eatonville is still governed by laws formulated by her father.
The details of my birth, as told me, might be a little inaccurate, but the saying goes like this. My mother's time had come, and my father was not at home. Being a carpenter, successful enough to have other helpers on some jobs, he was often away from home on building business as well as preaching. But when he got the news, I heard he threatened to cut his throat. Now, my sister Sarah was his favorite child, but that one girl was enough. I don't think he ever got over the trick he felt I played on him by getting born a girl. But he was nice about it in a way. He didn't tie me in a sack and drop me in the lake as he probably felt like doing. A day or so later, a Mrs. Neal, a friend of Mama's, came by and reminded her that she had promised. Remember, Lucy, you promised
promised to
Let her name the baby in case it was a girl.
name the baby if it was a girl.
She had picked up a name somewhere which she thought was very pretty, or perhaps she'd read it somewhere, or maybe somebody back in those woods was smoking Turkish cigarettes. Anyhow, I became Zora Neale Hurston.
Miss Mary Mac. Yeah. Okay. Miss Mary Mac, Mac, all dressed in black, black, with silver buttons, all down her back. She asked her mother, little Sally Walker, sitting in a saucer, rise, Sally, rise, wipe your weeping eyes and put your hand on your hip, let your backbone slip. To the east, oh, shake it to the west, oh, shake it to the one that you love the best.
Many of these children's game songs that we hear today in the United States come from England, but the time and rhythms are stepped up as they pass through the Negro communities.
And games from Africa, by way of the West Indies, came through the South and through the children where hands became ancient drums. We lived on a huge piece of ground with 2 China berry trees that guarded our front gate. And the cape and jasmine bushes with hundreds of blooms on either side of the walk. On moonlit nights, 2/3 of the village children from 7 to 18 came out and played hide and whoop and chick me chick and other boisterous games in the yard. Well, we had a 5-acre garden, so we were never hungry. We had chicken on the table often, home-cured meat, all the eggs we wanted. We had an 8-room house, and we called it a 2-story house, but later on, I found out that it was 1 story and a jump. We had 8 children in our family, and oh, it was noisy in our house from the time school turned out till bedtime. After supper, we would gather in Mama's room so we could get our lessons for the next day. And my mama exhorted her children at every opportunity to jump at the sun. You may not land on the sun, but you will get off the ground. Papa was not so hopeful.
Let well enough alone. Don't do for Negroes to have too much spirit.
Shh. Don't you sass me, girl. Don't you sass. I'll dust your butt.
John. He was always threatening to break mine or kill me in the process. Mama stood between us, and she conceded that I was impotent and given to talking back, but she didn't want to stretch my spirit. I don't want to squelch her spirit. You got the string to be the cowbell. Don't be the tail of nothing.
White folks ain't gonna stand for it. She'll probably get hung before she gets grown. You gonna suck saw, Lucy, for not beating the temper out that girl before it's too late. You know...
Oh, I was gonna tote a hungry belly by reason of my forward ways, but my older sister was meek and mild. She could always get along. Why couldn't I be like that?
Get you close up like that, child. I'm telling you, I'll tear you up.
Leave her alone. I will tend to her when I figure she needs it.
Behind Mama's rocking chair was a good place to be at times like this because Papa wasn't gonna hit her. He was 200 pounds of bones and muscle, and she was in her 90s. When people teased Papa about Mama being boss, he'd say,
I could break her of her headstrong ways if I wanted to, but she's so little I can't find no place to hit her.
Uncle Jim, Mama's brother, took exception to this often saying, if a woman got something big enough to sit on, she got something big enough to hit on.
Look like you, John, who holds any other notion of just beating around the bush, dodging the issue, and otherwise looking like a fool at a funeral.
What good do it do me to take my fist to a poor, weakly thing like a woman? Anyhow, you got to submit yourself to him. Ain't no use in beating on him and then have to beg him pardon.
Perhaps the real reason that Papa didn't take Uncle Jim's advice too seriously was because he saw how it worked in Uncle Jim's own house. Now, Uncle Jim could tackle on Caroline, but it was hard to beat her. Now, it was generally conceded that he could get the edge on her in physical combat if he took a hammer or a trace chain to her, but in other ways, she always won. So, that's why Papa never took Uncle Jim's philosophy of how to handle the lady people too seriously. Shh. Of weaknesses, Papa had his share. And I know there were times that my mama was very unhappy, but neither one of them made a move to call the thing off. Looking back, I could say, in spite of Papa's meandering, and Mama and Papa was really in love.
She could never close her mouth. Don't you know you can't get the best of no woman in the talking game? Her tongue is the only weapon a woman got. Now, she could have had more sense, but she told God no. She'd rather take it out in hips. So he gave her a druther. She got plenty hips, plenty mouth, no brains.
Oh, yes, woman do have sense, too. But she got more sense than to go around hollering about it the way y'all do. Now, the reason lady people got the advantage of the men is because God fixed it that way.
What old black advantage y'all got? We got all the strength, all the laws, all the money. Y'all can't get a thing unless we just take pity on you and give it to you.
That's just the point. You do give it to us, but how come you do it? You see, back in the old days, God made man and woman, and he put them together in a house to live. Now, back in them days, the woman was just as strong as the man, and they both did the same things. They would get to fussing about who's gonna do this and who's gonna do that, and sometimes they'd fight, but they was even balanced, and neither one could whip the other one. So, one day, man says to himself,
I believe I'm going up to see God to ask him for a little more strength so I can whoop this woman because I am tired of the way things are.
So he went on up to God.
Good morning, old father.
Man, what you doing hanging around the throne so early this morning?
I'm troubled in mind, and can't nobody ease my spirit except you.
Well, if you'll make your plea with humility, perhaps I'll listen and answer.
Oh, Maker, with the morning stars glittering in your shining crown, with the dust from your footsteps making worlds upon worlds, with the blazing bird we call the sun, flying out your right hand every morning, consuming all day the flesh and blood of stump black darkness, and come flying home to rest on your left hand every evening, and never once in all your eternal years done mistook the left hand for the right. I asked you, please, old Maker, give me more strength than that woman you give me so I can make her mine. I know you don't want to always be coming down past the moon and the stars to straighten her out, but it's got to be done. Now, please, old Maker, just give me a little more strength, and I'll do it.
All right, man. From now on, you got more strength than woman.
So the man ran all the way down the stairs from heaven till he got home. Soon as he got in the house, he hollered,
Woman, this is your boss. God told me to handle you in whichever way I please. I am your boss.
The woman flew into fighting him right off, but he beat her. She got her win and tried him again, but he whipped her again. He was so proud he could whip her at last that he just crowed over her and made her do a lot of things she didn't like. He told her,
As long as you obey me, I'll be good to you. But the minute you rear up, I'm gonna put plenty of wood on your back and plenty of water in your eyes.
The woman was so mad, she went straight up to heaven and stood before the Lord. She said,
Lord, I come before you, mighty man, today. I want back my strength I used to have.
Woman, you got the same strength you had from the beginning.
Oh, Lord. I'm asking you for it now.
It's too late. I never give something and take it back. And even if I was to give you more, he gonna still have more than you.
The woman was so mad, she wheeled around and went straight to the devil and told him what happened.
Don't be discouraged, woman. You listen to me, you come out more than conqueror. Wipe them frowns off your face, turn yourself right back around, go up to heaven and ask God to give you that bunch of keys he got hanging by the throne. And bring them back here to me. I'll show you what to do with them.
So the woman climbed back up to heaven again. When she got before the throne, butter wouldn't melt in her mouth.
Lord, Master of the rainbow, I know your power.
Woman, ask for what you want.
Yeah, give me that bunch of keys you got hanging there on your mantelpiece.
Please, take them.
So the woman took the keys and hurried on back to the devil with them.
I knew you was good.
There were 3 keys on the bunch, devil say.
See these 3 keys? They got more power in them than all the strength a man could ever get if you handle them right. This first big key has the key to the kitchen. You know how the man always favors his stomach? The second key has the key to the bedroom. He don't like to be shut out from that neither. And the third key has the key to the cradle. He can't stand to be cut off from his generation's age all. Now, you go home and lock up everything. And wait till he comes to you. Then make him use his strength for your benefits and your desires.
The woman thanked him and told him,
If it wasn't for you, Lord knows what us poor women folks would do.
She started off, but the devil, he halted her.
One more thing. Don't go home bragging about your keys. Just lock up everything and don't say nothing till you asked. And then don't talk too much.
When the man come home from work, she was sitting there singing some song about
pick on the wood, make the bed go good. Pick on the wood, make the bed go good. Pick on the wood, make the bed go good. Pick on.
When the man found the door fastened, what used to stand wide open, he swelled up like pine lumber after a rain. First thing, he tried to break it in, because he figured his strength would overcome all obstacles. When he saw he couldn't do it, he asked the woman,
Who locked this door?
Me.
Where'd you get the key from?
God gave him to me.
He ran up to God and said,
God, woman got me locked away from my victuals, my bed, and my generations, and she said you gave her the keys.
I did. I gave her the keys, but the devil showed her how to use them.
Oh, give me some keys just like them, old maker, so she can't get the full control.
What I give, I give. And woman got the keys.
But how am I gonna know about my generations?
Ask woman. On second thought, you're not in a hurry, are you? Try this too, and beg some.
So the man came on back and submitted himself to the woman, and she opened the doors. He wasn't satisfied, but he had to give in. Way after a while, he said to the woman,
Let us divide up. I'll give you half my strength if you let me hold those keys in my hand.
The woman thought that over, so the devil popped up and told her,
Tell him now. Tell him keep his old strength, you keep your key.
So the woman wouldn't trade with him, and the man had to mortgage his strength to her to live. And that's why the man makes and the woman takes. You men are still bragging about your strength, and the woman is still sitting on the keys. Stepped on a pin, the pin bent. That's the way the story went.
Joe Clark's store was the heart and spring of the town. Well, he was the founder and first mayor of Eatonville. Naturally, I wasn't allowed to sit around there, but I would drag my feet in and out while Mama waited for coffee or sugar to finish supper.
Zora! If you don't come here, you better. Y'all better get moving. The storm's coming. Get the wind rising.
We ain't no hogs. Can't see the wind.
Oh, you can see it. If you squirt some hog's milk in your eye. I seen it once.
How did it look?
That's a sight I'd sure like to see.
Oh, no, you wouldn't, son. The wind is blood red. When you see it coming at you, it's like a blood ocean rushing down on you from every side. I mean, you just drowning in blood. You can't help yourself. When I was a young'un, folks told me if I squirt hog's milk in my eye, then I could see the wind coming. And
Why they say hog's milk? Why can't you try some cow's milk?
'cause the hog is the onlyest thing what God made that can see the wind. She can see great winds coming the whole day off.
How'd you quit seeing the wind?
Well, the sow's milk wore out of my eyes gradual like. I could still see that wind for more than a week off. They had to blindfold me to stop me from running wild.
The wind is a woman. The water is a woman, too. They used to be together a whole heap. The wind used to go down to the ocean and sit and patch and talk and crochet. They was just like old lady people. They loved to talk about their children and to brag on them. Miss Water used to say, look at my children. I got the biggest and the littlest in the world. All kinds of children. Every color in the world. And every shape. Miss Wind bragged louder than Miss Water. I got more different kind of children than anybody in the world. They swims, they walks, they flies, they sings, they talks, they cries, and they gets their colors from the sun. Oh, my children sure is a pleasure. Ain't nobody got no babies like mine. Well, Miss Water got tired of hearing about Miss Wind's children. Got so she hated them. One day, Miss Wind's children went to her and said, Mama, we thirsty. Can we go get a cool drink of water? Mama said, yeah, children. Y'all go down to Miss Water's, but you hurry back soon. And when the children went to the water to quench their thirst, Miss Water grabbed them and drowned them. When Miss Wind's children didn't come back soon, she went looking for them. She said, Miss Water, have you seen my children today? Miss Water said, no. But Miss Wind, no, her children went to Miss Water's house. So she went passing over the ocean, calling. And every time she called, white feathers would come up to the top of the water. And that's how come we have white caps on the waves. It's the white feathers coming up. Every time Miss Wind calls her lost babies. And when you see a storm building up over the ocean, it's the wind and the water fighting over them lost babies.
A flea wanted to buy a pie, and I had to say goodbye.
They got great storms on the West Coast, too. I seen the wind blow so hard, it blowed her well up out the ground.
Another time it blowed and blowed till it scattered the days of the week so bad, Sunday didn't arrive till late Tuesday evening.
I wrote these stories down so that the concepts, artistic works, anonymous in their authorship, dramatized in performance, transmitted orally, would not be forgotten.
Well, it's just too bad there has to be 2 churches in Eatonville. Town is too small. Everybody should just go to one.
They wouldn't do that, and you know better. Fact is, Christian churches nowhere don't stick together.
That sure is right. Know a Bible verse or 2 and already want to build another church.
That's the truth.
Look at all the kind of denominations we got. But the people can't help that. Because the church wasn't built on a solid foundation to start with.
Oh, yes, it was. It was built on solid rock. Well, didn't Jesus say, on this rock, I build my church? Yeah, and the song says, on Christ, the solid rock I stand.
Yeah, he built it on a rock, but it wasn't solid. It was a pieced up rock. That's how the church come to be split up now. Now, here's the way it was. Christ the Lord was walking along one day with all his disciples. He said, we going for a walk today. I want everybody to pick up a big rock and come along. So everybody got themselves a nice piece of rock, except Peter. He was lazy. He picked up a little old bitter piece of pebble, dropped it down his side pocket, and come along.
Way along toward evening, they caught a great big mess of fish in the Sea of Galilee. And they cooked it up all nice, and the Lord said, everybody bring up their rocks. So they all brought up their rocks, and the Lord turned them into bread. Everybody had plenty to eat, except Peter. He couldn't hardly make a mouthful out of that little piece of bread he had. Peter didn't like that one bit. Well, 2-3 days later, he went for another walk. The Lord said, everybody bring along a rock and come on. So they all got a rock apiece and was ready to go, all except Peter. Peter tore down half a mountain. It was so big, he couldn't move it with his hands. He had to use a pinch bar to move it. So they way long toward evening, Lord gathered the disciples around him and said, everybody bring up their rocks, and they all brought up their rocks except Peter. Peter's still about a mile down the road punching that half a mountain he brought. So the Lord waited till Peter got there, and he got up and he went over to that big old rock Peter brung. He said, Peter, this is a mighty fine rock. Put his foot on it. He said, Peter, this is a noble rock. He said, on this rock, I'm going to build my church. Peter said, no, you ain't either. He said, you ain't building no church house on this rock. He said, you turning this rock into bread. Lord knows Peter meant that thing, so he turned that whole half a hillside into bread, and that mountain was the bread he fed the 5,000 with. Then he gathered up the 11 rocks the other disciples had brought, and he glued all them 11 rocks together and built his church on it. That's why the Christian church is split up in so many different kinds, because it's built on pieced up rock. this morning the wounds of Jesus.
The first and only real Negro poets in America are the preachers.
When God stood out on the apex of his power, for the hammers of creation fell upon the anvils of time, set the boundaries of the ocean for the gravity of his power.
Both prayers and sermons are tooled and polished until they become true works of art. The beauty of the Old Testament does not exceed that of a Negro preacher.
When God said, let us make man, and the elders upon the altar cried, if you make man, he will sin. If he sins, I'll redeem him. I'll break the chasm of hell with a fire never quenched. I can see the mountain fall to his rocky knees when he cried, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?
I like that part best because it was high drama.
And the angels had veiled faces, and the throne was cloaked in mourning, and the orchestra had struck a space for silence for half an hour. The angels had lifted up their harps to the weeping wells. And God had looked off into immensity. The blazing world fell from his teeth, and about that time, Jesus groaned on the cross, and he dropped his head in the lap of his shoulders. Yes. He cried, it is finished. It is finished.
And some cried out, I believe, I believe, I believe. And then the dungeon shook and the chains fell off. No, glory, I know I got religion. I know I've been converted and my soul set free.
And the chambers of hell exploded, and the damnable spirits come up from the sodomistic world and rushed into the smoky camps of eternal night and cried, oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. And the centurion, he cried out, surely, 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 this must be the Son of God. And about that time, the angel of justice unsheathed his flaming sword, and he ripped the veil of the innermost temple, and the high priest vacated his office, and heard the whistle of the damnation train coming from the Garden of Eden with cargo going to hell, and plowed her way through the Jordan on the way to Calvary when she blew for the switch, and Jesus stood on the tracks like a rough-back mountain, and she threw a cowcatcher in his side.
Oh, you couldn't even breathe without sinning. How could that happen if we've already been saved from it?
And his blood ditched the track, and he died for our sins.
It was explained to me that Christ died to save the world from sin. And if Christ hated to die, and God hated for him to die and have everybody grieving over it ever since, well, why did he have to do it? Why do people die anyway? I knew Mama was ailing. She had come home from Alabama with a terrible chest cold that just kept getting worse and worse, and very upset in her mind. She's getting thinner and thinner. Finally, she took to bed.
Wasn't nowhere in me spitefulness. Mama, I married John because I loved him. I come to be with Dinky, Mama. My sister's sick. She needs me, Mama. Why can't you just be happy that she's holding on? No, you can't throw me off the place now. Mama, stop it. Mama. People supposed to marry who they love. Zora! If you don't get in here, don't you let nobody ever make you sorry.
You better not let nothing make you ashamed. How could she not get over it after all this time?
That day, September 18th, Mama had called me in and given me certain instructions. I was not to let them take the pillow from under her head until she was dead. The clock was not to be covered, nor the looking glass. And she trusted me to see to it that these things were not done, and I promised I would see to it. I'd left Mama and was playing outside a little while when I noted a number of women going inside Mama's room and staying. And as I crowded in, they lifted up the bed and turned it around so that Mama's eyes would face the east. I thought she looked to me as the head of the bed was reversed. She couldn't speak, but I felt she wanted me to speak for her. She depended on me for a voice.
Master maker in his making had made old Death, made him with big soft feet and square toes, made him with a face that reflects the face of all things, but neither is mirrored anywhere, made the body of Death out of infinite hunger, made a weapon for his hand to satisfy his needs. This was the morning of the day of the beginning of things. But Death had no home, and he knew it at once. And where shall I dwell in my old dwelling? Old Death asked. He was already old when he was made. You shall build a place close to the living, yet far out of the sight of eyes. Wherever there is a building, there you have your platform. It comprehends the four roads of the wind. For your hunger, and give you the first and last taste of all things.
We had been born, so Death had had his taste of us. We had built things, so Death had his platform in our yard. Death stirred from his secret place in our yard and came to my house.
Someone reached for the clock. Miss Mattie Clark put her hand on the pillow to take it away.
Don't take that pillow from under
mama's stuff back where it was. Papa held me tight, and the others frowned me down. Mama was still rasping out the last morsel of her life. I know she was trying to speak to me. What was she trying to tell me? Just then, Death finished his prowling through our house and entered the room. He bowed to Mama in his way, and she made her manners and left us to act out our ceremonies over unimportant things.
That night, a wind rose about the house and blew from the kitchen wall to the clump of oleanders that screened the chicken house, and from the oleanders to the fence palings, and back again to the house. A pack of dogs followed it, rearing against the wall and leaping and pawing the fence, howling, barking, and whining till the break of day.
That night, all of Mama's children were assembled together for the last time on earth. My sister was to look after me, but life picked me up from the foot of Mama's bed and set my feet in strange ways. I was old before my time, with grief of loss, of failure, of remorse. No matter what the others did, my mother had put her trust in me. She had felt that I could and would carry out her wishes, and I had not. In that sunset time, I failed her. It seemed as she died that the sun went down on purpose to flee away from me. Mama died at sundown and changed the world.
I had often wished that I had been old enough at the time to look into Papa's heart, to set my compasses towards him and be sure. Because I did love him in a way. He had a poetry about him that I loved that made him a successful preacher, and oh, he could fight. Well, he had licked, to our knowledge, 2 men that Mama said needed to be licked, and that was all fine with me. But I was my mama's child. And I never got to know much about Papa after that, because he married again, and our stepmother didn't take too kindly to us kids, especially me.
One of the most serious objections to me was that, having nothing, I still did not know how to be humble. A child in my place ought to realize that I was lucky to have a roof over my head and anything to eat at all. And from their point of view, they were right. I was in school off and on, which gave me vagrant peeps into the light. But I had no guarantee that it would last. Gradually, the idea of attempting self-support came to me. And it was a glorious idea when it came to me. Now, you wouldn't lie to me, would you, Zora? I said, oh, no, ma'am, because I needed this job.
Her first real job was as a lady's maid to an actress in the Gilbert and Sullivan repertory company. She was the only Negro around, but that didn't worry her one bit. She didn't have a chance to be lonesome because the company welcomed her as its new play pretty. It did not strike her as curious then.
Oh, no, I didn't even think about it. Now I can see the reason for it.
And see, in the first place, I was a Southerner and had the map of Dixie on my tongue, and they were all Northerners, except the orchestra leader. He was from Pensacola. Now, it was not that my grammar was bad, it was the idioms. See, they do not know the way an average Southern child, white or black, is raised on simile and invective. They know how to call names. It is an everyday affair to hear somebody call a mullet-headed, mule-eared, wall-eyed, hog-nosed, gator-faced, camel-backed, butt-sprung, battle-ham, knock-kneed, razor-legged, box-ankle, shovel-footed, unmated so-and-so. Eyes looking like skint ginny nuts. Your mouth looked like a dishpan full of broke-up crockery. They can furnish you a picture gallery of your ancestors and give you a notion of what your children will be like. I mean, they take their comparisons right out of the barnyards and the woods. And when they get through with you, you and your whole family look like an acre of totem poles.
After about 18 months on the road, the company wound up in Baltimore. A wandering Messiah thing.
This actress I work for said I shouldn't be working at all, that I should be in school. She said she thought I had a mind. Money was what I needed to get back in school. I could have saved a lot of money, but theatrical salaries being so uncertain, I didn't get mine half the time. I wanted to get through high school. I had a way of life inside me, and I wanted it with a want that was twisting me. How then did I get back in school? I just went. I enrolled in Morgan Academy, the night high school in Baltimore, and that did something for my soul.
In Xanadu did Kubla Khan a stately pleasure dome decree, where Alf, the sacred river, ran through caverns measureless to man, down to a sunless sea.
There I met a man, Professor Dwight O. Holmes, who gave me the key to certain things.
And mid this tumult Kubla heard from far ancestral voices prophesying war. A damsel with a dulcimer in a vision I once saw. It was an Abyssinian maid, and on her dulcimer she played.
Certainly, every time he lifted his eyes up from the page, he looked right into my eyes. It did not make me see him particularly, but it made me see the poem.
Weave a circle round him thrice, and close your eyes in holy dread, for he on honeydew hath fed, and drunk the milk of paradise.
Listening to Coleridge's poem for the first time made me see all that the writer had meant for me to see with him, and infinite cosmic things beside. I was not of this workaday world for days after Professor Holmes's voice had ceased. This is my world, I said to myself, and I shall be in it and surrounded by it. It was the last thing I'd do on God's green dirt ball. They say the same thing about a Howard man as they say about a Harvard man. You can tell a Howard man as far as you can see him, but you can't tell him much. Zora, you got to come to Howard. You're Howard University material. Everybody knows Howard is the capstone of Negro education in the world. I mean, there is Negro money, Negro beauty, Negro prestige. I didn't have the money to finish at Howard, but somehow I got to New York. Oh, thank you. Oh, I like this. I like it.
On account of a short story she wrote for the Stylist, Howard's literary journal, Charles S. Johnson, founder of Opportunity magazine, published 2 of her short stories, Drenched in Light and Spunk. Oh, he wrote a very kind letter. And then he mentioned something about New York.
So, beginning to feel the urge to write. The first week in January 1925 found me in New York City with $1.50, no job, no hope, but a lot of prospects. I walked right into the middle of the Harlem Renaissance, where writers and artists, musicians and poets would gather together. One of my favorite people was Langston Hughes. He was my collaborator and friend. Some of the Negro literati did not always approve of my style, but wherever I went, I did make an impression.
Zora, you ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Zora won a prize for a short story. Got herself a job as Fannie Hurst's secretary. Annie Nathan Mayer got her a scholarship to Barnard, where she graduated in 1928.
She was always getting scholarships and things from her wealthy white friends. Some of them simply wanted her to sit around and represent the Negro race for them. Well, she did it in such a racy fashion. She was, no doubt, the perfect darky to many of her white friends.
The social register crowd of Barnard soon took me over, and I became Barnard's sacred black cow. Now, if you had not had lunch with me, you had not shot from tall.
Zora, you gotta come back.
Zora was more like an uncolonized African than she was a black American. You see, most black Americans believed their blackness was something to be ashamed of.
I am not tragically colored. I mean, there is no great sorrow dammed up in my soul or lurking behind my eyes. I do not belong to the sobbing school of Negrohood who holds that nature somehow has given them a low-down, dirty deal and whose feelings are all hurt about it. No, I do not weep at the world. I am too busy sharpening my oyster knife.
Well, she's extremely adept at getting people to give her money.
Without money of one's own in a capitalist society, there's no such thing as independence.
Maybe. Well, sometimes I feel discriminated against, but it does not make me angry. It merely astonishes me. How they can deny themselves the pleasure of my company is beyond me. Hit it!
There's something about poverty that smells like death. In those days, if you were lucky, you had a patron, someone to support you while you went about your creative destiny. Zora's rich white patron and mine for a time was Mrs. Osgood Mason. Zora signed a contract granting her an allowance of $200 a month to collect folklore in the South. The contract stipulated that Zora's folklore would become the exclusive property of Mrs. Mason.
I'm gonna wrestle me up a future, but I'll try.
But even the contract with Mrs. Mason did not relieve Zora of her financial woes, because she believed Zora could not be trusted to know what to do with her own work. Zora wrote an article in which she stated,
"White folks should not be trusted to collect the law of others."
Godmother Mason was so upset, Zora had to hastily explain Godmother was not included in that remark.
Out of the essence of my godmother, out of the true one, out of the wise one, I am made to be. Thus I have taken from the breath of your mouth, from the vapor of your soul, I am made to be. Now, about the money, Godmother. Now, folklore is not as easy to collect as it sounds. The best source is where there are the least outside influences. But these people are most reluctant at times to reveal that which the soul lives by. I did not have the right approach. The glamour of Barnard College was still upon me. I mean, I dwelt in marble halls. I knew what the material was, all right, but I went around asking in carefully accented Barnardese, "Oh, pardon me, but do you know any folk tales and folk songs?"
No, I never heard tell anything like that around here.
My man's a dirty, dirty, dirty
a dirty, 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 low down dog. Uncle Bud is a man in full. His sack hang down like a Georgie bull. Uncle Bud, Uncle Bud. Uncle Bud, Uncle Bud, Uncle Bud. Uncle Bud is a man.
A man like this, he can't get a woman gonna use his biz. Uncle Bud, Uncle Bud, Uncle Bud, Uncle Bud, Uncle Bud. Uncle Bud got gals long and tall, Lord, to rock them men from wall to wall. Uncle Bud, Uncle Bud, Uncle Bud, Uncle Bud, Uncle Bud.
Uncle Bud is heavy, Uncle Bud ain't light, and those big women that ain't just
Uncle Bud, Uncle Bud, Uncle Bud, Uncle Bud. Uncle Bud got corn that sure needs shucking. Uncle Bud got daughters that sure need.
Oh, big cat, little cat, playing in the grass. You don't stop scratching, gonna kick your ass, Uncle Bud. Uncle Bud.
Uncle Bud, Uncle Bud, Uncle Bud.
Look, I got up this morning, I knowed I didn't want it. Yay, Polk County. The clang of 9-pound hammers on railroad steel. The world must ride. Oh, Mobile. Oh, Alabama. Oh, Florida. Oh, Fort Myers. Oh, shake it. Oh, let's bake it. Oh, let's shake it. Oh, just how? Another rail spike down. Another offering to the soul of civilization, whose other name is travel. Got on the train, didn't have no fare, but I rode some. Yes, I rode some. Got on the train, didn't have no fare, but I rode some. Yes, I rode some. Got on the train, didn't have no fare. Conductor asked me what I'm doing there, but I rode some. Yes, I rode some. I rode some. Now, wait, now who put out that lie supposed to last forever? Love is when it is. Yeah, but what, don't take you where I'm going, woman? Hell no. Let every town furnish its own. Jordan back at it.
Aha, Jack. Game. Low and not ashamed.
Oh, what you say?
I'm begging.
Get off your knees and go tell him I sent you, boy. Pull it on off, partner.
King, ain't seen the deck but one time.
Oh, shucks, man. Thought you had the king.
Nope, he can't catch a thing. He can't even catch nobody looking at it.
John Henry said to the captain, he said a man ain't nothing but a man. And before I let that steamship beat me down, I'm gonna die with this hammer in my hand, Lord, Lord. Gonna die with this hammer in my hand. And the captain said, John Henry,
Tell 'em about me. I'm raggedy but right, patchy but tight, stringy, but I will hang on.
Lucy really wanted to kill me. All I was doing was collecting songs from Slim, who used to be her man back in West Florida before he ran off from her. He was a valuable source of material to me, so I built him up a bit by buying him drinks and letting him ride in my car. Most of the women liked me, especially Lucy's sworn enemy, Big Sweet. Lucy was fighting Big Sweet through me. Lucky for me, I had befriended with Big Sweet.
Look at her, putting out her brags. Loud talking the place.
Counting from your little finger back to your thumb, she started anything. I got her some.
That little narrow, contracted piece of meat skin gonna make me stomp her right now.
Come on, Big Sweet, we got to go home.
She don't look out, she'll have on her last clean dress for the crack of day.
Ooh, she's mad because I dared her to jump you. She don't like Slim playing John Henry for you. She would have done cut you to death if I hadn't took and told her.
I can see she doesn't like it.
But she knows our backs you're falling. She knows if she scratches your skin, I will kill her so dead till she can't fall. They'll have to push her over, flourishing that little old knife round. But But she ought to know. Man that made one, made two. She better not bury. Do? I'll be all over her like gravy over rice. Run, Zora!
I really ran, too. I ran out that place, ran in my room, and threw my things in the car and left. When the sun came up, I was 100 miles up the road, headed for New Orleans. I had left Louisiana, and after visiting Florida, I came to New York City where I fell in love. And when I fall in love, I can feel the bump. He was tall, dark brown, magnificently built, with a beautifully modeled black head. I mean, I didn't fall in love with him for that. He had a fine mind. That intrigued me. When a man keeps beating me to the draw mentally, it begins to get real glamorous. He was born in New York City, of West Indian parents. He was so extraordinary that I was in terrible fear lest women camp on his doorstep in droves and take him away from me. Later, he told me that he could not believe that I just wanted him. But sooner or later, the telephone or the doorbell would ring, and there would be my career again. A charge had been laid upon me. And I must follow the call. In the midst of all this, I received my Guggenheim Fellowship and sailed off to Jamaica. But with every step I took, there were pools of blood from the very middle of my heart. I tried to embalm all of my feelings for him in my novel. Their eyes were watching God. In all but 7 weeks, sometimes writing late at night after a day of collecting, I poured out the quality of an unsettling love, its tenderness, its intensity, and perhaps its sense of ultimate impossibility. Sooner or later, it had to end. I collected stories because I continued to feel weighed down by the thought that practically nothing had been done in Negro folklore, when the greatest cultural wealth in the continent was disappearing without the world realizing it had ever been. Who knows what fabulous cities of artistic concepts lie within the mind and language of some humble Negro boy or girl who never heard of Ibsen? Who would pass on the stories about Brer Rabbit?
Or the possum.
Or the squinch owl.
Stories about God.
Folklore is the arts of people before they find out there is such a thing as art. Who would pass on the stories about the devil?
And creation.
Who would tell about the secret power of those who live on the other side of the creek?
Who would tell of the power of High John the Conqueror?
High John the Conqueror. High John the Conqueror.
High John was not a natural man at first. In the beginning, he was a whisperer, a will to hope.
And then the whisper put on flesh.
His footsteps sounded across the world in a low, musical rhythm, as if the world he walked on was a singing drum.
He had lived
lived and worked on the plantations, and all the slave folks knew him in the flesh.
The sign of this man was a laugh.
It was an inside thing to live by.
It was sure to be heard when and where the work was hardest and the lot most cruel.
It helped the slaves to endure. They knew that something better was coming. So they laughed in the face of things and sang, I'm so glad that trouble don't last always.
Old Master didn't know it, of course, but High John the Conqueror was there.
Treading the sweat, flavored clods of the plantation like a natural man. Crushing out his drum tune, giving out secret laughter.
He came walking on the winds, and he moved fast.
Maybe he was in Texas when the lash fell on a slave in Alabama. But before the blood was dry on the back, he was there in Alabama.
That old John was a case.
Distance and the impossible had no power over High John the Conqueror. He was from Africa.
He came walking on the waves of sound, and then he took on flesh after he got there. The sea captains of the ships knew that they brought slaves in their ships. They knew about the black bodies huddled down there in the middle passage, being hauled across the waters.
They did not know that John the Conqueror was walking the very winds that filled the sails of the ship.
And all the time there was High John the Conqueror, playing his tricks of making a way out of no way.
Way over there, where the sun rises a whole day ahead of time, they say that heaven arms with love and laughter those it does not wish to see destroyed.
High John the Conqueror. High John the Conqueror.
Oh, Zora Hurston wrote stories. She collected stories, songs, work chants, sayings. She helped make a unique contribution on the cultural map of America. She knew that we were learning to be ashamed.
Here is the genius of our ancestors for whom it was against the law to learn to read and write.
She wanted us to marvel at, to be proud of those survivors who could put wings to imagination. She wanted us not to be ashamed.
Her life was a salute to the common people, the wrong side of the railroad track, over the creek people who laughed loud, loved, and lived hard.
We owe them recognition, she said, respect, and our profound thanks. But most of all, we owe them to ourselves. She wanted us to be proud.
She did. That's right. Well, that's the way things stand up to now.
Yeah.
I can look back and see sharp shadows, highlights, smudgy in-betweens. I've been in sorrow's kitchen and licked out all the pots. Then I've stood on the peaky mountain, wrapped in rainbows, with a harp and a sword in my hands.
Hallelujah.
My sense of humor will always stand in the way of my seeing myself, my family, my race, or my nation as a whole intent of the universe. I know that God is too great an artist for we folks on my side of the creek to be all of his best works. Some of his finest touches are among us without doubt, but some more of his masterpieces are among those folks who live over the creek. Amen.
Amen.
Flowers, Zora? Yes. Yes, yes.
Thank you, sister.
Got a mule on the mountain. Call him Jerry. Go ride him down. Lord, Lord, go ride him down. Captain got him. Tell him about me. I'm raggedy but right. Patchy but tight. Stringy, but I will hang on.
Captain got a mule on the mountain called Jerry. Captain got a mule on the mountain called Jerry. I can ride, Lord, Lord, I can ride. I don't want no cold cornbread and molasses. I don't want no cornbread and molasses. Give me beans, Lord, Lord, give me beans. Every payday, I get a letter. Every payday, I get a letter. Son, come home, Lord, Lord, son, come home. Captain got a mule on the mountain called Jerry. Captain got a mule on the mountain called Jerry. I can ride, Lord, Lord, I can ride. I got a woman, she got money accumulated. I got a woman, she got money accumulated. In the bank, Lord, Lord, in the bank. Every payday, I get a letter. Every payday, I get a letter. Son, come home, Lord, Lord, son, come home. Captain got a mule